This podcast is brought to you by the Wren Bar. The Wren Bar is a new modern bar in Woodford, County Galway, which offers a host of live music and quality drinks.
So delighted now to be joined by Jeffrey Lynskey for the second edition of the Galway Hurling Club Championship Power Rankings. There has been a bit of movement this week up the table for some clubs, and some clubs will find themselves down the table as well. Just before we do get into the power rankings, again, thank you to our sponsor, the Wren Bar in Woodford. Make sure to check it out if you're around that area. Jeff, before we get into it, what did you make of the opening round of the championship?
I got to watch Portumna Turlockmore on Friday night. Fairly impressed with Turlockmore's side of play. Sharp pass and running game. Probably should have got 3, if not 4 more goals in the first half. They were fairly impressive. The game on Saturday, Ardrahan and Castlegar. Again, look, a 4-point win for Ardrahan. Johnny Glynn was hugely important and impressive for them inside now in terms of score creation and converting chances for the forwards up top. And he was a huge pinnacle and focal point for the team. Apart from that, you know, I did fancy, because of injuries Tommy Larkins had against Killimordaly, I did fancy them. Craig gave a fair beating to Mike Cullen. Iron put up a really good show against Cappy. So look, the rationale, Paul, really is teams are moving up and down based on their own performance levels and who they've beaten. So there is a lot of movement there between the top teams of Senior A.
Are Ardrahan someone after their performance at the weekend that can now maybe be considered a dark horse and could cause a surprise along this championship?
Yeah, look, in terms of the type of player they have, look, Tanyan's probably the only guy that's 30, whatever he is now, 34, 35 plus. Johnny Glynn is a huge addition to them. Jason Kennedy caught my eye as well. These lads, Jason and Johnny in particular, they'll be lads you'll be looking at for county senior squad in terms of their ball winning ability and their scores. Jason was in there a couple of years ago. He afforded a really good outing. Mushin Slevin got through a good bit of work midfield, and their backs are solid, you know. Michael Walsh there in the full back line, Darks and goals, you know, so like they're peppered with lads who've been playing at a high level in colleges and through county teams over the last 7-8 years. Yeah, they could be a dark horse one.
Just on it, I have to ask the question. I was asking it to Kevin Brady during the week as well, and it feels like it's a question that has to be asked now. If you were Galway manager now at this current stage, are you phoning Johnny Glynn and trying to get him to commit for 2024?
Yeah, look, he would be someone that we're missing in our half-forward line in terms of a pop-out option. Johnny's been a huge loss for the county since, I think he's played last year was 2019 up in Dublin, as far as I remember. That was his last year. He'd be someone, yeah, definitely, that should be given a phone call to. Look, 30. He'd still have 2 or 3 years left. I don't know if he's home for good, Paul. I don't know.
He's commuting at the championship. As far as I'm aware, he's actually not going to. I'm not sure is he back for the next round for Ardrahan. He might actually be back until round 3, but he is commuting from New York at the minute to come back and play for a club.
Okay. Yeah, look, seeing him play the last day and seeing what he can do inside. He's the Castlegar defence in huge bother. Both halves, and yeah, look, he fits the profile of what's needed senior level. And yeah.
Did anyone else catch your eye from a performance at the weekend?
Probably disappointed with Portumna compared to where they were last year. There was no one really there that kind of jumped out for me anyhow. Turlockmore, I didn't know they had that feeling guy up top for them, you know. Again, he's a big unit. And Welsh had a fine out, and a lot of that then on the underage, Matthew Parkley, these lads, you know, they're probably coming into the reckoning at under 20 level. They're probably too early for them yet. Until look, I'm still in Greece here till Saturday. So until I see the other games that were live up on the stream, like, it'll become a lot clearer, Paul, really by the third and fourth games, who's coming and who's really put the work in individually over the last 9-10 months. But I think Ardrahan have, in fairness to them, over the last 2 years, have really stepped it up in terms of their own preparation, off the field especially, and they're reaping the rewards.
Great to see Conor Walsh back. He's obviously went through a few different things over the last year or two, but great to see him back in fitness and playing hard.
Yeah, look, he's back with the college as well, second year, doing his PME, you know. So look, it's great to see him fully fit and enjoying his hurling, and that's the most important thing for himself personally. And obviously putting on a Turlockmore jersey is really important to him as well. And it's great to see him out there. You know, Sean Otter is the big loss for Turlockmore now, in terms of what he brings to that team. But look, they look very sharp now, very sharp in their ball usage and distribution of the ball. And look, you're looking at the top 4 teams there. We'll get a look at Sarsfields at the weekend against Crockway. So we'll know more after that game as well.
So if we get into power rankings, here at the minute, we have the top 8. I presume you can see it here, Jeff, can you?
I can only see the intermediate ones. You need to scroll up there.
You can only see the intermediate ones.
Yeah, on the big screen. Just click on the senior ones to say it come up, yeah.
So now, can I get into here?
There we are.
Yeah, so the senior ones there, we have number 1 to 8. So there hasn't been much movement here. So just the top 8 teams in first, St. Thomas's, second, Loughrea, third, Clarenbridge, fourth, Sarsfields. Didn't play at the weekend. That game has to be refixed against Crockwell. Fifth, Turlockmore, sixth, Killimordaly, seventh, Capitagal, and eighth, Oranmore Mary. I suppose, Jeff, just on these top 8, like, there's not really a whole lot of movement here, but you wouldn't expect there to be really with the results that there were at the weekend.
Yeah, look, as I said already, Killimordaly were the only ones to jump up. You're swapping their place with Tommy Larkin's. Oranmore missed a penalty, but it was only 3 points in it for a finish with Clarenbridge. So look, they were probably disappointed. Local derby. The Bridge will be delighted to just get the points on the board, get a performance in, and they get their season up and running. You're looking at, Paul, let's be honest about it, who's going to jump into that? Really, realistic speaking, it's probably, if we're based on the form of the weekend, it's probably Ardrahan are probably the only team that could push into the top 8. But it'll be interesting with the next round of games, because look, it's going to be, you lose that second game, you're now fighting probably relegation. You know, if you don't want that. Teams who didn't get points on the board, there'll be a serious soul searching and reviews on this week to make sure that they train properly over the next 2 or 3 sessions to get themselves ready for second round.
Thomas has just shown, even when you were seeing Shane Cooney back at the weekend, like, obviously David Burke's a huge loss, but to get a player back like him, and they did really, I have to say now, they did look impressive against Gord, because there was always maybe that just a very, very small question mark of what were they going to be like, because it was their first competitive game since Dunloy, but like, really impressive as you'd expect, really, though.
Yeah, look, the inside line did the damage for them. And any bits of stuff I heard about them last couple of weeks was their inside line was causing trouble with Victor Manzo, Bushing, Flannery. Conor Cooney got a goal as well, didn't he? So they had 2 goals got after 6 or 7 minutes against Gort. Gort will be content with what they're showing us also, you know. They kept tugging away. They got a high percentage of points, but look, Thomas is our county champions for a reason. They're going to look trying to make history this year, what they're going to be trying to do. And they're still the team to beat, Paul.
Have Loughrea shown that they're going to be there? Like, when you see, we were talking about Mike Cullen had a really good, successful year, but it was such a statement of intent at the weekend by them. Yeah,
look, they're unearthing a few gems as well. Luke McInerney there had a good fine league campaign from inside forward. Anthony Burns will be better again this year after going through his experience of last year. Johnny Conan presumes at 6 and Paul Hogan at 3. You know, so they'll be thereabouts again, as we know, and they'll want to get back there again this year and to prove a point themselves. And I think regarding squad depth and size, they're up there with any team in the county of Preston, or probably ahead then in terms of a bit more quality than some other teams.
Then obviously Sarsfields didn't play at the weekend. That game was obviously just something what went on there at Sarsfields at the weekend with Jimmy Cooney passing away. So that game didn't play. It has to be refixed with Crowell. If you're looking at third and fifth, because obviously we can't really talk about Sarsfields because it didn't play, so there's nothing really to judge them on yet, but you're still expecting them to be thereabouts. But do Clarenbridge and Turlock nearly kind of fall into this category just slightly behind, or do you think they're in the category of Loughrea?
I think they're in the category of Loughrea, yeah. Any of them teams on their given day could take each other out if they click. So for me, like Turlockmore, Sarsfield, Clarenbridge and Loughrea, they'll be all in that bracket of 4 teams that you see. The interesting game is going to be Turlockmore Thomas's opposite. And with Shane Cooney back, Lynskey Manning's back. Did David Shirley play at the weekend? He did.
David Shirley did, yeah.
Yeah, so like, and then Caulfield, we've got the 1-3 last year in the county final. I think he's still out in the States. He's not back yet either. Like, so they expected these lads to come back and to help them out also. But yeah, look, them 4 teams are obviously on any given day, you'd expect them to be pushing and striving to get into a county semi-final, if not final.
Killimordaly, they're in 6th place for you now. They're up 3 places. They're the only team that's moved in this top 8. Are they another kind of team similar to Ardrahan, where you expect them to cause an upset along the way?
Yeah, with again, Brian Burke, I presume, shot the lights out the last he was on the team of the week.
Yeah, Brian Buchanan did as well.
Yeah, so like they have 2 forwards there with Paul Craven, that's 3. That can shoot the lights out at any given day. And I think Jack Fitz is probably back fully fit as he. Jack played the last day. Where did he line out midfield? Midfield
was on his back anyways. Yeah, so I presume he was.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I think would do a job for Galway around the middle third. He fits that profile for me in terms of his athleticism, his physicality, his honesty of effort. He's good with the ball in hand. He ticks a lot of boxes. But yeah, Killimordaly are another team that you're kind of going, if it's injury free, they could very well be pushing into a quarter final. If they get a good draw, they could reach a semi-final.
7th Capitagal. I don't know where you're listening to the Hurling pod on Sunday, but James Skell was referring to Capitagal's a spot in the power rankings.
Well, to be honest with you, no. No. Well, how did they do at the weekend, Paul?
They bet Kilkenny by 6 in the end.
Yeah, so like they're in the top 8. Where does you think they should be? Top 4, top 5? On any given day, I don't see them taking out a Turlockmore, Sarsfields, Clarenbridge or Loughrea.
Interesting for them, and then, like as you said there, or more missed a penalty, but positives to take for them too in 8th place. If we're to move then to the next stage, we have 9th to 16th here. Tommy Larkins have went back 3 places. Crowell in 10th did play at the weekend. Ardrahan 11th up to 12th, Gort 13th, Castlegare back to Kilkenny. They're up to, and then Portumna are 15th, and that's where they started, and then Mike Cullen are down to. Tommy Larkins are back 3. We were talking in the lead up to this, like it's just injuries that are probably really affecting Tommy Larkins at the minute, but the Killimordaly just kind of blitzed them then in the second half, and their spot here really is justified.
Yeah. We put in a good showing. Do we see much movement with the bottom half? Possibly next weekend, and it'd be interesting to see where they finish up. But like for me, Ardrahan will be the interesting team in this coming round 2 and round 3 especially.
Yeah, as we said there, Cromwell are intent. They didn't play. We've touched on Ardrahan. We do believe they're dark horse. 12th there, as you mentioned, Gort. Disappointed probably in the end for them. But I have to touch on here with 13th, Castlegar. They're down 2 places. There's obviously a lot of talk about Castlegar going into this one at the weekend after Kevin Brady's comments on the podcast last week. What did you think when you heard those comments, Jeff?
I looked at the end of the day, it's his own opinion. Does it count for anything within people at Castlegar? They're probably hurt by the comments, but I know a lot of the good lads there. I was expecting probably a backlash for them, but some of the lads wouldn't probably pay much heed, Paul, this time of the year. Well, that's what's been said on social media. You can't control it.
What do you think when you hear Castlegar? Like, what's been their issue for you, or what's been their problem?
It's probably consistency of performances in games. They're peppered with an awful lot of quality. Probably was inch over them 2 years ago, and then you have Johnny Kelly and Kearney last year was probably a clash of playing styles, and they're probably trying to discover what is the best formula for the type of players that they have. But like they still have threatening forwards. Mark Hill was back from injury. They were probably still short 2 or 3 prominent lads, and only 1 or 2 retirements as well. But look, they've 2 games left, Paul. You know, in regards if they get a win the next day and they get a result the following day, like they're back in the pot again. So look, in terms of what's the issue is probably I can't denounce in any club. It's down to effort, it's down to training, it's down to preparation, and coming up with a style and a system of play to suit the players they have.
Do you think anyone in this 8 can find themselves in a relegation battle? Or do you think there's maybe 1 or 2 teams that are just might have enough to avoid it, or do you think anyone in this 8 could end up in it?
Look, you're looking at the teams there, like money based again performance, and there's nothing, I'm not attacking any clubs here. I'm just judging what I'm seeing. You'd be fairly worried about Portumna now, and where they're at. And then the rest of the teams in that, as I said, look, already we'll know more by round 2. My Cullen will be fairly disappointed with their showing. You're looking at Gort with the type of players that they have and the age profile, but they'll probably be happy with the performance levels, but not happy with the result. And I'd be expecting them to kind of find a bit more the next round. The Canaran put in a good show against Tagal, obviously.
Is that why you put them up too? Because last year, like, they got a lot of hidings, but they, like, for their first weekend, they were competitive.
Yeah, and that's it. To put a performance in, and what we saw from Portumna and what we saw from Mike Cullen especially. I think they got a 20-point plus rubbing from Lapre. That's why you're moving them down, and that's the rationale behind it.
For them teams now, like Portumna and Mike Cullen, is it very hard to turn this around?
Look, they've got 2 games left. They're going to have to get the result the next day. And again, as I said, look, there's a lot of soul searching over the next week. The review meeting will be probably fairly hot and heavy. And look, if a club can stumble across something and it brings the necessary energy level and necessary focus to the group, you can get that result. You can turn it around fairly quick.
So then if we just move on to the senior B power rankings, and it's fair to say this is the place where we have the most movement out of the senior championship, the senior B and intermediate. This is where you will see the most movement and like some really, really eye-catching results. I'm sure you didn't like this yourself, putting teams down, especially when your own club were here. But you bet your own club at the weekend, up 3 places.
Yeah, and it's justified based on the win that they got against Mellows. 3 goals scored in difficult conditions, and 18 points was 318 to 116. So look, that for me, and you're looking at probably the lads that made the team of the week, and the 1 or 2 on that as well, you know. So look, that's the rationale behind that. Mellows moved down. You're swapping them with the position that Mulla had, and themselves and Athenry now are going to have a ding-dong battle in 2 weeks' time.
So we just actually bring in your own club here, because it's a really eye-catching result. A lot of teams were expecting Mellows to have too much for Senior B before it even started. Now, obviously, they had Ryan O'Dwyer in charge. He's not there anymore. There's been an interim manager put in place, but they're down 4 places. Is it solely that kind of distraction why you think they're struggling to kind of get form at the minute, or what do you kind of put it down to? Because, like, as we're saying there, an 8-point defeat by Mulla, down 4 places, and you could have even argued to maybe put them. There could be an argument to put them down even further, because like everyone expected Mulla and Mellows to be a tight game, and it didn't really turn out like that.
No, if you don't get the performance levels and this year performance during your league campaign and get commitment from all your panel, you're going to struggle your first round of challenge. So outside distractions are huge problems for a lot of teams, but especially teams within the city. And trying to keep the boys focused and on task is a difficult thing. So look, for me, looking at the lads during the league especially, they didn't find a level of consistent performance. Challenge game boys, they played Ballyhay, they won that, they won their last league game against Rye, played against Prosheen, lost by whatever 13 points. Now they played Mulla and lost by 8. So look, the manager that's there now, President Coleman Dillon, and it won't be an easy job from to kind of galvanise them, but they're going to have to find something all from within the group. They're going to have to show leadership and stand up in front of, and to make sure that the level
is relegation to intermediate a possibility with the way things are at the moment?
Again, look, I judge it on round 2.
Okay.
I'm expecting to find more in terms of performance levels. There's probably a few positional changes that will need to be done.
If performance levels don't rise, it is a possibility. Would you say that?
Again, as I said to you, if they change the full back line, especially 3 goals being leaked against Mulla, they're going to struggle against. I know Keane Work was sent off for Athenry, so you'll have Jack Carr here, Jack Carr inside probably, which is one of the lawlesses. So look, if they get that line right, 1 or 2 of the lads might have to go back from the half back line into the full back line, and strengthen the full back line up especially. But look, round 2 is going to tell an awful lot for against Athenry Saturday or Sunday week.
Yeah, Athenry there and Mellows both down 4 places, and it's safe to say they're both fighting for their lives in the next round.
Yeah, look, Athenry had a few players away in the States. You know, so again, look, I look at Senior B teams, and a lot of them think they don't deserve to be there, but they're there based on results from last year. And if lads aren't fully committed, it doesn't matter whether it's Senior B or intermediate, you're going to struggle. So look, at the end of the day, performance levels were nowhere near good enough, I'm told, against Mulla wasn't at the game, so it was on the way to a flight.
You're just on mute there, Jeff. Yeah, you're just on mute there.
Sorry there a second.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so they're both down 4 places, Mellows and Athenry. Just to be kind of jump back up, because we did touch on Mulla obviously rising. But both of it, so Mulla have rose 3 places up into top spot. Haskell-Fona as well, they've rose into second, up 3 spots as well. And a brilliant win for Haskell-Fona, because that game was tied at halftime. Killimordaly remain in third after the 1-point victory over Port Pierces, and Killimordaly as well. Their first game back up in Senior Hurling Championship for quite a while, and they overcame Beha. But like second to fourth, they're good victories for all those teams.
Yeah, and again, look, as I said already, I don't want to reiterate it myself, but this is based on performance levels and obviously results. And these teams that are moved up, I was expecting a push from Ahasper this year. Like, they got fairly organised compared to last year in terms of their management team, and obviously they produced a really good showing in last weekend's game. Killimordaly just about got over the line against Pierces. So that first game, Paul, is so important to get the result. If you don't get the result in the first round, you're under an awful lot of pressure from the second round to get things right.
Yeah, it already feels like there's positivity and momentum behind them teams. Just then 7-8. Pierce is obviously down one place. Lost like very, very narrowly to Killimordaly. They'll have regrets there, and Beha remain in 8th.
Yeah, look, again, the teams that are in the top 6 was not based on last year's form, where they finished up with the mid-knockout stages. That right mid-knockout stages were fairly unlucky to lose the Ardrahan on penalties. Beha struggled last year, didn't get the result of the weekend. So like Limer, for me, could cause a few upsets along the way as well in terms of how they play the game. It's high energy, in your face, aggressive, and they're very physical, powerful players in a lot of positions.
Yeah, but as Jeff was saying there, like the next round of Senior B is going to tell a lot. 3 teams coming out of that group, top spots into the semis. So interesting to see how that peter out, because teams are obviously going to find themselves in a battle for survival, or in a battle to push on to the knockout stages. So it's going to get really interesting there really quickly. Intermediate power rankings, they haven't changed at all. So our top 8, we have Teen Abbott and Irie, Meelick Aircourt, Rahul Newcastle, Ceylon, Kinvara, Ballingerine, Carnmore, and Clarenbridge's second team. An already eye-catching result from the weekend just was the way Teen Abbott and Irie put out a statement here, and they really did crucify Kinvara.
Yeah, and we would have touched on that last week as well, in terms of the management team they had in place. And obviously, Paul Clean has met the team of the week as well. Michael Powers on the subs. So look, Rahul had a really good win. Clarenbridge had a win also. So look, that'll be fairly fluid as well, Paul, in terms of the movement of teams in the probably top 6 as well. But look, I'm still banking on Tina to come through and win intermediate.
Yeah, so they're all in the top 8 intermediate. We're just going to move on then to the bottom 8 in just a second there. As we mentioned, Rahul had a victory. Ceylon had a victory as well too at the weekend, narrowly just getting over and down. Then from 9th to 16th, Turlockmore second team, Abbeynockmoy, Ballygare, Crofwell, Annadown, Kiltormer, Kilbacanty, and Spittle. Is Abbey's victory here, has it changed anything for you, or do you still think maybe just a bit off?
Again, round 2 will tell us off the in terms of where they're at. So again, look, there will be movement from probably 9 to probably 13. So we'll know more than Paul.
What's this period now like as a club manager, Jeff? Like after your first round,
if you've won, the confidence in the camp obviously will improve. Lads being good form comes to train. If you've lost, it's a different scenario completely for you. And trying to pick the lads up and to make sure that their heads are clear going into training sessions and putting right what went wrong in the first round game. But you're going to be learning from game to game anyhow, Paul. But look, you're just hoping that the work you should done over that 6-7 months will help you out in round 2 and round 3, especially in terms of fitness level. Regarding chopping and changing of puckouts, systems, playing styles, you will have position switches because you would have learned an awful lot from the first game. And they're really good management teams. The teams that are there will have stumbled across formations and setups and team selection over the year. If you're still chopping and changing after round 1, you're going to be in trouble even in round 2.
Yeah, so obviously this weekend we have a break. It's football weekend, and then back to hurling again. So our next edition of the Power Rankings will be after that. But that's all we have time for on our show, and that's all on our second edition of the Power Rankings.